Good afternoon and a warm welcome to all the participants here today who have joined in for this 5 days GST Gyan Satra Series 2. I, CA Amruta Kulkarni, Vice Chairperson of the Pune branch of ICI, along with my colleague, CA Rajesh Agarwal, Chairperson of the Pune branch, welcome you all. I take this opportunity. It's indeed a pleasure and privilege to welcome our first faculty speaker for the day, CA Ravi Somani. Before I hand over the opening remarks to CA Rajesh Agarwal, the chairperson, I would like to share with all the participants that just within 24 hours of the successful hosting of the National Conference on the Statutory Audit of Bank Branches, Pune branch team has all set and geared up for hosting up this unique series. So this is a wonderful series which is designed, and I'm sure that all the participants will take the benefit of it. I request my colleague CA Rajesh to please welcome the audience.
Warm welcome. Warm welcome and very good evening to all of you. I congratulate you for the decision of joining this course, because friends, I never seen the course which we have designed at Pune branch covering almost 10 sectors. Because why I said so? Because if you see, GST law is not a sectoral law. It is structured for all the sectors commonly. Means for auto industry, we have to read section 1 to section 177. Again for ITES, same provision section 1 to 177 we have to go through. But we will go through some intricacies, sectoral intricacies in this series, which we should take care of before complying the working or consulting to the respective industry. I am sure you will gain 100% from this series, but my request, friends, being this is a online series, your focus needed 200%. 200 focus, if we can concentrate or dedicate our time, 101%, I assure you, you will gain 100%. I wish you all happy learning. And I also thank Ravi Kumar Somani sir for accepting our invitation and also always helping us in structuring the program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rajesh. And now, before we move forward with the formal discussions on GST for automotive manufacturing industry, it is my duty to officially introduce CA Ravi Kumar Somani, though he really needs no introduction for the Pune audience or pan-India audience when it comes to topics on GST, especially on automotive sector. I'll fail in my duty if I don't read the profile formally to all of you. CA Ravi Kumar Somani is a chartered accountant and pursuing his LLB. He is an extremely passionate indirect tax professional with experience in performing health check reviews, providing advisory and litigation support in the matters concerning indirect taxes. He has given lectures at various trade and professional forums. He has authored 3 books on indirect taxes: Practical Guide on GST on Automobile Industry, Practical Guide to GST Audit and Certification, Self-Study Guide to Indirect Taxes. He has written various analytical and issue-based articles, research papers, and legal updates on indirect tax matters, which are published in various newsletters and online platforms. He loves doing extensive research on the subject and solving critical indirect tax problems. His mission is to spread indirect tax knowledge and solve indirect tax problems and to raise voice against unscrupulous practices. So over to you, Ravi sir, for the discussions on GST for automobile sector. Thank you. The stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, Amruta madam, for the detailed introduction. I hope I am properly audible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
All set.
Excellent. So I think wonderful response for this very, very unique topic. And I would just like to tell one short incident. Rajesh sir has become chairman of Pune branch for a financial year 23-24. And I just called him to congratulate that congratulations, sir, you have become chairman. And you won't believe, in that call itself, within a span of 30 minutes, he declared the structure, we declared the entire program structure, dates, faculties, and the next day I get a message that it is launched. I was like, fabulous speed at which he works, and I'm sure that in this particular 1 year, with the committee members, all committee members, joint efforts, I'm sure that there are a lot of sessions, topics that would be covered. Very unique topic. I could see one topic very unique. How to go in the corporate ladder. Excellent topics, I would say. None of them heard earlier. So anyway, without taking any further, I would now like to go into the subject of our discussion, which is today's topic, GST on automobile industry. So as again, what Rajesh sir mentioned, although GST law is one GST law, but then for each and every industry, each and every sector, it changes. It completely changes. You may be a biggest of the expert in GST, but if you don't understand client's business, if you don't understand sector, I am sorry, it cannot solve client's practical problem. This is the reality. I'll give you one example. I was at one of the client's place last week, and it was a new client. So client has just called me for some opinion, and the client asked, "आपके पुणे में कौन clients है? किन clients के लिए पुणे में काम करते हो?" I started telling the list of all the big clients and all that we are working in Pune. Then he asked me a very important question. Then he, वो सब ठीक है, real estate में कौन सा client है वो बताओ. So the point is, even clients know this. Clients are also very smart. They know that unless you don't know real estate industry, unless you don't know automobile industry, you will not be able to give the holistic advice to the client. In GST, ठीक है, आज का session हो गया, 2 घंटे में, you will get some bird's eye, you will get some understanding. But I'll tell you what, if you want to really become a very, very, intellectual indirect tax professional, then you have to understand the industry in great detail. And that's where the complexities lies. That's where the issues are there. Is there any issue with my volume? There is a message that has come. Let me just see if I can increase a bit, but then it's already full. So if there is any further issue, it continues, let me know.
Yogesh, we can hear him. I think kindly check at your end, please.
Yeah, I got a message that there are no issues. So okay, then I'll just continue with whatever that's going. So today's topic is GST on automobile industry. Now, automobile industry constitutes about 7% of our GDP, and it's the third largest industry. Very, very cyclical sector. The sector is very, very competitive, extremely, cost competition, extremely market driven. There was a time when there was a total slump in demand, and suddenly there was a rise in demand. Again, suddenly there is a slump in demand. So extremely volatile sector. If I look at the GST collection of the previous month, the collection of compensation cess is at the highest, which means compensation cess majorly have tobacco and automobile as the major components into it, which means there has been a very good sale coming from the automobile sector in this particular period of time. So constitutes a very, very big segment of our entire GDP. More specifically, I can say Pune as a region is big time into automobile. So our today's discussion, we will look at various segments of automobile industry. First is the vehicle manufacturers, the OEM manufacturers. like Tata Motors, Mahindra and Mahindra, and all those, car manufacturers. Then we'll also look at the component manufacturers, the manufacturers of the parts, components, accessories. What is the implication for them? Then we'll also, I would say briefly touch upon the dealer segment. I will not go too much in detail in the dealer segment because the topic was mainly on the manufacturing. But yes, dealers, I'll briefly touch upon some important and critical aspects of dealers segment. So coming to the automobile segment, now, first of all, looking at the rate structure. This is broadly the rate structure. If you see, we think that automobile industry, the GST rate is 28% plus cess, but there are various other categories as well, where the rate of tax is 5% and 12% and 18%. For example, electric vehicles, you have fuel cell motor vehicles, tractors are having 12%, and bicycles, buses for use in public transport, where it is with biofuels, refrigerated motor vehicles, special purpose motor vehicles are also categorized under 18% category. Then you have these work trucks and these vehicles, the factory or the station wagons in the warehouse, which is basically to handle the equipment and to move the material, which is again in the 18%. Then baby carriages 18%, trailer, semi-trailer. Then comes your vehicles for transportation of persons. Again, less than 10, more than 10. That category comes under 28%. Vehicle for transportation of goods also come under 28% category. So vehicle for transportation of persons and vehicle for transportation of goods come under 28% category. Plus, for vehicles in the transportation of persons category, there is a compensation cess as well. Now, let me tell you, this compensation cess is beyond 28%. So and the rate of tax depends on the length of the motor vehicle, the engine capacity of the motor vehicle, the ground clearance of the motor vehicle. These are the major factors that contribute. So largely, it goes to 15% as the rate of compensation cess, depending upon the various HSN codes that it falls into. Then, if it is not exceeding 1200 cc or the length not exceeding 4000 mm, I would say vehicles like Maruti Alto or the small vehicles, there the rate of compensation is 1%. And diesel vehicles of the same category goes under 3%. And then rest all vehicles, apart from all these above categories, goes under 17%. And then if it exceeds 1500 cc, then the other than motor vehicle on the above category, 52B. 52B is for SUVs. Highest rate of tax is for SUVs, which is sports utility vehicles. The rate of tax goes up to 22%. And finally, for the motorcycles exceeding 350 cc, I would say the sports, motorcycles, the rate of tax goes to 3%. So essentially, the highest rate is for SUVs. And let me tell you, in our country, currently there is the craze of these SUVs. And considering this, craze of SUVs, the government has put up the highest rate for this. And despite that, the same going high as far as SUV segment is concerned. So if you look at it, 28%, then 45%. So largely it ranges from 43% to 50%. This brings a very, very important and a fundamental question that what is government up to? I mean, there used to be times when we used to talk about rates of 50, 60, 70, 80%, we used to call it as uh, uh, inspector era or police Raj. But then in this particular era, charging a GST rate, comprehensive GST rate, including cess, of 43 to 50%, in my opinion, is way, way, way too high as a rate of tax. Now, we need to understand that if manufacturing has to grow in India, if we are really looking India as a make in India segment, then one of the biggest contributor in this growth phenomenon is going to be automobile sector for sure. And unlike our earlier thought process that having a motor car is a luxury, I don't think it is the case in today's generation or in today's scenario. In today's scenario, motor vehicle is not a luxury; it is a necessity. But then keeping a rate of 50%, in my view, can negatively impact the entire growth story of this entire segment. One of the very important aspects that we need to understand that the growth is not just about the growth that is going to come from the local manufacturers. It is also from the foreign manufacturers who are going to come to India. And what is the reason for them to come to India and look at the Indian market if the rate of taxes are considered as so high for this particular segment? So I believe that these rates at this point really requires recheck, revisiting, recorrection. Automobile Association has been largely pushing for this, but government is adamant they are not backing down on this particular thing. Only one of the very, very, very good things about the segment is electrically operated vehicles. Electric vehicles, e-vehicles, government is pushing for them, and they have given a very good rate of 5% for e-vehicles, which could have a very positive impact as a company, as a country. Reason being that once the reliance on diesel or the fuel-based vehicle comes down, our overall bill of payments for imports on fuel would come down, which would have a very good impact as far as economy. Probably that could be one more reason of why government is discouraging to buy fuel-based vehicles, petrol, diesel vehicles. Now, let me tell you, these electric vehicles, the benefit of the rate which has been given as 5%, this is only for electric vehicles which are run solely based on the electric power. It is a hybrid vehicle where electric as well as some other mode is also there. That may not go under 5% category. A vehicle which is solely based on electric vehicle only would go under that category. Hybrid vehicle would not go under that particular category, which is, I would say, government must reconsider that stance also, because at this point there are manufacturers who are making a hybrid vehicle where the engine or where the motor vehicle can switch between the electric power as well as the other power generation. So that particular thing is still not considered for the reduced rate of tax. Now, coming to various issues that are there in the segment, one of the largest area of issue has been in the aspect of classification in the motor vehicle segment, largely because there are so many different types and variety of vehicles, special purpose vehicles, and that is where the confusion crops up. So to start with, I would like to ask a question, whether this is a vehicle for transportation of goods or whether this is a vehicle for transportation of persons. Certainly, all of you will say, what kind of question you are asking. This is a vehicle for transportation of goods, although there are people who are traveling through this vehicle. Correct? See, the reason this question becomes very, very important is because the rate of tax for vehicle for transportation of goods is different from the vehicle for transportation of people or persons, passengers. Correct? So this, everybody can say that it is a vehicle for transportation of people or persons. Okay. Now the question that comes is, what is the important factor to be looked at? So the important factor that needs to be considered in this entire mechanism is what is that the vehicle is designed for, and not what is that it has been used for. Okay. So whether the classification should be determined based on the intent for which the vehicle was designed, or one should consider the actual purpose for which the said vehicle is being used. So what is important is what is that it is designed for, and not what is that it is used for. So this is extremely important to understand the classification between this particular ship or a boat. Is it a excursion cruise or excursion boat, or is it a pleasure boat or a pleasure yacht? See, boat, is it a sports boat, pleasure boat, or an excursion cruise or excursion boat? Am I audible? Oh, I think I got a message that there was. Is it now audible? Okay, sorry. I think there must have been some internet issue. So, oh, there's a frequent network issue. Okay. Whether the issue, whether my earlier slide was properly audible, or do I need to? Perfect. Okay. So now coming to this particular segment, or the second issue which I'm looking at, is this particular picture which you are able to see on the screen. Is it a excursion boat, or is it a pleasure boat, or pleasure yacht? Okay. So the thing is, in this particular case, this boat is used for tourism purpose, for the tourists, for excursion purpose. The question was, how do you classify this? Now, if you look at the HSN code entry, there are two different entries: 89011030, 89039990. Now, the 8901 entry, it says cruise ships, excursion boats. Now, 8903 says yachts or other vehicles for pleasure or sports. Now, typically, when in this particular case, it's a Supreme Court judgment. When the boat was registered, it was registered for the purpose of undertaking excursion for the tourist. In fact, it was registered like that even with the authorities. But still, department has given Supreme Court has given a judgment that despite this boat being used for excursion or for the purpose of a cruise as a cruise ship, still it would classify as a yacht or vessel for pleasure or sport, and not a cruise. Reason being, we cannot classify based on the usage. We have to classify based on what it is designed for. This particular boat, it had all the premium items. For example, it had carpet, table, cots, mattress, refrigerator, heater, microwave, icebox, CD player, power generator, very well furnished. So considering this is the judgment which is there. It is no important as to the manner in which the impunged boat is used. It is important how the boat is built, which should be a guideline for determining the classification of boat. So another issue as far as classification is concerned. Now look at this particular vehicle. Now in this vehicle, there is this is basically used as a I would say cash delivery van for moving the cash from bank to the lockers. Now, in this particular case, the vehicles are specially designed in such a way that there are safe lockers in which the cash can be kept, but there is also seating available for the security guards. The security guards, the driver, and those people can also sit in the vehicle. The question that came before Supreme Court was that whether this is a vehicle for transportation of goods or whether this is a vehicle for transportation of person or for transportation or carriage of persons. So again, considering the principle which I mentioned, although in this vehicle, people can also go, security guards can also travel, but primarily it is designed for transportation of money or transportation of goods and not for transportation of persons. It will help to be a goods carriage vehicle and not a passenger vehicle. Now, this is a very, very classic issue. Rather, I would say one of the extreme issue in the industry, be it Tata, Mahindra, all the players had a problem in this particular segment. Now, this particular vehicle, if you see, Tata Mobile 207 model crew cab pickup truck. Now, I would like to ask a question, just looking at the picture, can you tell me whether this is principally designed for transportation of persons or is it principally designed for transportation of goods? Okay, so I get two answers that this is designed for transportation of goods. Okay, so almost everybody says that this is for transportation of goods. Okay, but look at the advertisement. But look at the advertisement which Tata has given in the newspaper when this vehicle was to be launched. Tata Motors has given the advertisement in the newspaper like this. Now more space for your family members. Can you see on the slide? It is written, now more space for your family members. Introducing Tata Mobile Double Cab. This vehicle carries more people with comfort. You look at the language. More people with comfort. Two models have a capacity to carry 1 + 9, total 10 people can be carried with soil top, and 1 + 5 person for carrying personal baggage, load body, and husband. The modern design is built, like this. So this is the advertisement that has been brought. Now, because of this advertisement, department has raised the litigation that this is for primarily for carrying the people and not for carrying the goods. So this is a very, very landmark judgment. Telco Limited, in fact, in the same judgment, even Mahindra and Mahindra vehicle and all the judgments were combined, and this is a common judgment which was given. Now, please pay attention. This judgment brings out a very, very, very important dimension. I'm reading the text of the judgment because I feel it is really an important aspect that we must know. Supreme Court says, if vehicle weight is used up in the design in favor of the passengers, in as much as a major portion of the same is used for the passenger transportation, then the vehicle would be classified as one which is principally designed for transport of persons. If, on the other hand, this gross vehicle weight is so distributed by designing features on a major portion of a difference is used for transportation of goods, then the vehicle would not classify as 8303, but would classify under 8704 as transportation of goods. So the differentiation aspect that has been brought is based on in the entire design of the vehicle, when it is very difficult to say by looking at the vehicle, because there is some big portion for people, there is a very big portion for goods. In fact, both can come and go, correct? So it's very difficult to say where we can simply see and say, okay, this is for transportation of goods, this is for majorly, principally. But in this example, it is very difficult to say principally what it is for. When it is difficult to say principally what it is for, the criteria is how the gross weight of the vehicle is apportioned. If the majority of the gross weight of the vehicle is towards the transportation of goods, then it would classify as goods. If the majority of the gross weight of the vehicle is towards the transportation of persons, then it would classify as a transportation of person. This is a fundamental or a ratio or a principle that we need to use when we are unable to determine that what is the principal usage or principally for what it is designed. When we are unable to conclude, then this principle is required to be used. When I say weight, it does not mean the weight of the components or the weight of the engine or the weight of the steel that is gone. It is the weight that the vehicle can handle, which needs to be given to the authorities, and a certificate has to be taken. How much weight the vehicle can handle towards the goods, how much weight the vehicle can handle or the certified towards the people, and what is the apportion of that, and what is towards majority. If it is towards goods, then it is a goods transport. Towards people, it is a people transport. In this particular case, it was held to be a vehicle for transportation of goods based on the weight. You all have given answer based on the look or the design, but the judgment is in totally different analogy. This judgment was given, correct? So like this, there have been various issues. As to the classification. So whether a particular vehicle is for transportation of goods. Similar issue also came for Mahindra Bolero Camper, because again Mahindra Bolero also has two types of vehicle: Mahindra Bolero Camper passenger vehicle, Mahindra vehicle camper goods vehicle. See, again Mahindra, they did not wanted any issue, and that is why they categorically in the name itself, in the name of the vehicle itself, they have mentioned passenger vehicle, because they did not wanted any issue. Now, to avoid this anomaly, to avoid this dispute, these are the 5 different criteria that are given to determine whether a vehicle is for transportation of persons or for transportation of goods. First, presence of permanent seats with safety equipment for each person. Generally, if it is for transportation of people, there will be a permanent seat with safety equipment. Like, for example, there will be seat belt, there will be airbag, all those features. But in case of vehicles that are principally designed for transportation of goods, you will not have a proper seat. The seat will be like a bench. The seat will be like a bench type seat. There may not be any a seat belt. There may not be even an airbag in that particular vehicle. Presence of rear window along with 2 side panels. Along with the 2 side panels, there will be a rear window. You can just, because a person would like to have a window so that there can be a fresh air coming. But in case of goods, you don't need window. Rather, in case of goods, you would like to pack it so that there is no dust coming. Correct. So in case of goods, there may absence of rear window. In case of passenger, presence of rear window. And with the window, the presence of the door is also important. In case of persons, there will be the doors along with the window. In case of goods, there may not be the door on the side. There may be one door in the back end, but there may not be any doors in the side of the vehicle. Correct. Then absence of permanent panel or barrier between the area of driver and the rear. The driver area and the passenger area, there will not be any barrier in the middle. As far as the goods vehicle is concerned, there will be a barrier, or there may be a barrier between the driver sitting area and the actual back area. So if there is a barrier, then it is transportation of goods. If there is no barrier, then it is to a transportation of persons. And most importantly, presence of comfort features and interior finishing and interior fittings. So if there is a presence of comfort features, interior finish, interior fittings, then it would classify as a vehicle for transportation of persons. And if there are no such features, it would go as a transportation of goods. In fact, one of the issues that is being faced by Mahindra is in a category where all these are there, but the gross weight is more towards goods. The gross weight is more towards goods. But as far as the vehicle's look and feel is concerned, it is absolutely comfortable. It has got all the interior finishing features, fittings. It has got a window. It has got the door. It has got the no barrier between the driver and the passengers, and it has got all the features. It has got all the features to call it a vehicle for transportation of persons. But when it comes to gross weight, the gross weight is more towards the transportation of goods. Now, this is a unique issue. Currently, the matter is pending before the higher authorities. But then I'm telling, despite these 5 features, there can be one more deadly combination of vehicle. Because see, this Mahindra and all, Tata and all large companies, they want to have good comfort features wherever the passenger is sitting. They don't want to put a bench type, seat. So there are some vehicles where there are all the good features, yet the weight is more towards goods, which are, I would say, further disputable categories. Now, these were the issues in a segment of determining whether a vehicle is towards transportation of persons or it is towards transportation of goods. Correct? Now, coming to the next dispute, which is there, is in the context of difference between motor vehicle versus machinery or equipment. So we need to understand that automobile as an industry is not restricted only for carrying people or for carrying goods. It has evolved over a period of time. Today, we can see a sabjiwala having a specially designed motor vehicle. We will see a Swiggy having a specially designed motor vehicle. We will see a ice cream van having a specially designed medical clinic, fuel dispenser, eating joints. So vehicles are beyond transportation of persons or transportation of goods. Now, this category is called as special purpose motor vehicles, which are neither for transportation of persons principally and neither for transportation of goods. They are principally for some other special purpose. Now, when it comes to a vehicle which is principally for transportation of goods, the rate of tax is 28%. Vehicle which is principally for transportation of persons, the rate of tax goes to 28% plus cess. Now, this special purpose vehicle come under totally a different tariff heading. There is a tariff heading 8705, which is a special purpose vehicle. If you see crane lorries, firefighting vehicles, concrete mixer lorries, mobile drilling rigs, mobile workshops, spraying lorries, so various these type of vehicles are in this particular category. Now, there is another category, extremely important category, is under chapter 84, which is, forklift, cranes, cable cranes, mobile lifting frames. So these are again, trailers, dumpers, tippers. The question that comes is whether these type of vehicles, whether they would go under the classification of a special purpose vehicle or whether it would go under a classification of a machine under chapter 84. So the entire chapter changes. It can be either chapter 87 or chapter 84. Now, what is important is that there are many machines which also have mobility. But then every machine that has a mobility cannot be called as automobile. What is important is to see what is the significant factor in the machine. whether mobility is the significant factor or the machine is the significant factor, and how the mobility and the machine are integrated and connected. This is extremely important to see whether a particular item would classify as a machine or it would classify as a automobile. Now, to give you some examples, now this is, hydraulic truck mounted mobile crane. Now my question is whether this is a mobile. It will classify as a crane, because crane is a different classification. Crane is under chapter 84. See, your excavators, dumpers, tippers, cranes, all these things are totally different classification at times, which are used at the construction site in the top hill of the mountain. They would do drilling, rigging, cutting, blasting, various other activities. Now my question again is whether this is a special purpose motor vehicle or this is a crane. Anybody would like to attempt? Whether this is a crane under chapter 84 or a special purpose motor vehicle under chapter 8705. So a lot of answers coming, crane. Then there are some answers. Someone has told SPV, special purpose vehicle. So very important that we need to again go and look into the facts of each case. Now, in this particular case, if you see, the goods under discussion consist of a self-propelled chassis on which a lifting machine is integrated technologically and operationally. The chassis is designed for accommodating the machine permanently by facilitating the circular movement of the machine by lifting and shifting the heavy objects in operation. Now, we need to understand, see, in all these cases, there will be a chassis. Chassis to rahega isme. But chassis ke saath mein, there will be some other item also which will be fixed. ठीक है ना? So let us say that some other item which is fixed, it is simply fixed by nuts and bolts. अगर सिर्फ nuts and bolts से join किया है उसको, ठीक है ना? Then it can classify as a special purpose vehicle because the significant aspect is the mobility. But ये particular scenario में that is not the case. Chassis के साथ में the entire thing is technologically and operationally integrated. In fact, the chassis itself is designed for accommodating the machine permanently. The chassis ऐसे नहीं है कि chassis बन गई और उसके ऊपर आपने कुछ नट बोल्ट से लगा दिया. इनफैक्ट जो chassis की जो डिजाइन है, chassis की डिजाइन भी जो मशीन की रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से, based on an upper structure it has been made. In fact, below the chassis, I can't show you, but there will be 4 different, rigs which can come down. The riggers can come down and it gets mounted on the ground, and the vehicle pushes up so that there is a stability, because that stability is needed when actual operation is being taken care. Actual operation is being done, which is called hydraulic outriggers. So in this particular case, this is what Supreme Court, says in the, this is the case of Tribunal, Ahmedabad. So I would like to read the judgment so that we can understand the context. The product imported is not just a crane. It also cannot be considered simply as a vehicle. This product is capable of mobility from one place to another, and to that extent, it does the function of a motor vehicle. So there is mobility, and somewhat resembles a motor vehicle. Having been moved from the place to place of operation, the vehicle gets immobilized with the help of outriggers before it can undertake the function as a crane. The special purpose vehicles specifically referred in 8705 are crane lorries, mobile drilling derricks, firefighting. They continue to have mobility as a very significant function. As the chassis was manufactured to integrate with a working machine, it was immaterial whether the power to crane come from chassis or from somewhere else. So what was important in this was the crane part. The product in question is an integrated product, and that the predominant function are that of a crane. Therefore, we are inclined to consider this product as a member of a crane family and not a member of a special purpose vehicle family. So it is an integrated vehicle where it is mentioned that predominant element is that of a crane. So the classification would go under chapter 84 and not under 87. Now, these are another 3 examples. You see the below one. Now, the below one is a refueler. So basically, it's like a mobile petrol pump. In this mobile petrol pump, you can actually carry the entire petrol pump, and you can go to the factory and fill the petrol pump as per the requirement of the customer. Now, this particular entire vehicle, it would get classified as a special purpose vehicle. Reason being, in this case, the entire chassis is already built. There is no special chassis that is done for this. All that they have done is that they have simply installed the dispensing machine along with the storage tank by nuts, bolts, and I would say whatever that fabrication has been done. So it does not integrally or operationally changes the structure of a chassis, and hence it was classified as a special purpose vehicle. Similarly, that particular wagon, if you see, it is generally used in the warehouse or the factories for movement of material from one place to another. Now again, there was an issue in this case because the wording used is for transportation of goods in a road. Now, whether that is for transportation of goods in a road, now a vehicle which is used internally within the factory or internally within a warehouse, can it be called as for transportation of goods in a road or not? Because the word road is becoming very critical, and the entire classification and the rate of tax changes. Now look at that another vehicle. There is an accessory attached at the back of the car, and on that accessory you can hang the bicycle. The question is that accessory which is attached at the back of the vehicle, whether that accessory is a accessory of a car or whether it is an accessory of a cycle. Because the moment we call it as an accessory of a car, the rate of tax will go to 28%. And you call it as an accessory of bicycle, the rate of tax will go to 12%. So in our view, that particular accessory is the accessory of a car and not the accessory of a bicycle. Of course, we have gone into the chapter notes, section notes, and all those things. So what I'm trying to say is that there are host of classification issues. I've only touched few issues. I can tell you, like, there are around 50 classification issues, 50 roughly classification issues that are there in the entire vehicle segment, whether it is goods, special purpose vehicle, wagon, passenger, ship, boat, cruise, machine, all permutation and combinations. Now, this is as far as OEM segment is concerned. Now, there was one very tricky issue that came in the context of electric vehicles. Was generally in the electric vehicle segment, the one of the biggest cost is the cost of the battery, and that's why many electric vehicles are being sold without batteries, and there is also battery swapping and all those things also taking care as the infrastructure for the entire industry is growing. So the question came is that if the electric vehicle is sold without battery, it doesn't have the features of electric vehicle per se. So whether it would get classified as an electric vehicle in the first place was a question, because the entry said solely on electrical energy. So department has clarified very recently that even if the electric vehicle is sold without battery, still it would take the color of the electric vehicle only, I think there is a, there are general interpretation rules of classification which deals about this subject. How to classify a particular. Considering those principles, even though the vehicle is issued in an unfinished or unassembled form, still it would take the color of an assembled or the finished vehicle. So it was held to be an electric vehicle only. So this was one of the rare issues that was there in the electric vehicle. But one of the another issue which is there, which I've already mentioned about, is in the context of mixed vehicles where electric also is there. Nowadays, hybrid is there. People are talking about hydrogen and other things. So those things are still acceptable at the higher rate. And the benefit of rate is not given because when it is solely for electric purpose, this benefit would come in. Now, another very, I would say, big issue that was there in the entire industry was in the context of compensation cess. Now, if you see this entry of compensation cess, I already mentioned about that based on the length of the motor vehicle, based on the ground clearance of the motor vehicle, based on the engine capacity of the motor vehicle, and based on the type of the motor vehicle. These are the 4 different criteria that are used to determine the rate of tax for cess. Now, some of the issues that have come as far as this particular thing is concerned, first is in the context of SUVs. Now, as far as SUV is concerned, this was the entry number 52B. 52B mentioned motor vehicles of engine capacity exceeding 1500 cc, popularly known as sports utility vehicles, including utility vehicles. Correct? Now, here there was an explanation which said, for the purpose of this entry, SUV includes. What is SUV? They did not define. Remember, what is SUV? They did not define. It simply says, for the purpose of this entry, SUV includes a motor vehicle of length exceeding 4000 mm and having a ground clearance of 170 mm and above. Now, one of the most funniest thing that was there in this particular entry was, first of all, what is SUV was not defined. And can we take the inference from ARAI, which is Automotive Research Authority of India, which certifies the vehicle, or from the Motor Vehicles Act? Can we take the inference from those laws on what is SUV? And second is, there were multiple entries above 52B, and in all these entries, it was specifically mentioned, this explanation, can you see on the slide, it was mentioned, for the purpose of this entry, the specification of the motor vehicle shall be determined as per the Motor Vehicle Act and the rules made thereunder. Now, in all entry number 47 to 51, they have given this explanation, but for 52B, they have not given this explanation. So the question was, it means that for SUV, we should not refer, or we cannot refer to Motor Vehicles Act. And we have to only go by the ARAI certification as to whether a particular vehicle is SUV or not. Now, let me tell you, you may say, sir, how does it make a difference? Kaise, dekhte hi pata chal jata hai whether it is a SUV or not. But there are some issues. See, if I have to differentiate SUV from other vehicles, one of the very big differentiation in SUV and other vehicles is based on the ground clearance. In SUV, generally the ground clearance is a little bit much more as compared to other sedan or compact vehicles. Now, the ground clearance, if you see, it is mentioned, ground clearance is mentioned as 170 millimeters and above. The question that comes is, this ground clearance has to be seen based on the leaden basis or unleaden basis. Now, what is the difference between leaden basis and unleaden basis? This is a very, very technical language as far as the industry is concerned. Leaden weight is a weight that has been seen after the passengers are sitting in the vehicle. And unladen weight is seen before the passengers are sitting in the vehicle. So when we look at the ground clearance of 170 millimeters, whether it is to be laden basis after the passenger sitting or before the passenger sitting. Now, this was another very big issue in the industry. So, but we need to understand that all the authorities, whomsoever who certify the vehicle, they certify it based on the laden weight and not based on the unladen weight. But till now, there is no clarification on this aspect. But in our view and as per the view of the industry, I think there is already one ruling that has come also in this context, that it has to be a laden weight and not unladen weight for the purpose of this particular ground clearance thing. Now coming to another aspect, which is the length of the vehicle. Sometimes we see that there is some towing, clip at the back of the vehicle, or there is some tail lamp at the back of the vehicle, or there is some extra protective bumper at the front of the vehicle. Whether all these also are required to be added to calculate the length of the vehicle was another very big issue. See, for example, any tail or indicator lamp or number plate, spare wheel bracket or bumper fitted to a vehicle, towing hook at the back of the vehicle or the front of the vehicle, operational attachment on front rear or for carrier chassis. So when it comes to Motor Vehicles Act, they would always classify or calculate the length of the vehicle after removing all these things. It means these all additional fittings are not considered for the calculation. Because there was no reference to the Motor Vehicles Act in the entry, the industry was in confusion as to whether it has to be considered or not to be considered. Finally, department has come with a circular 189, where they have categorically clarified that even for this entry, they can refer to the Motor Vehicles Act for the purpose of looking at this particular thing. And they mentioned that all these 4 conditions are to be satisfied to be fulfilling as a SUV, and not just that one of the conditions. So it should be popularly known as SUV. It should be popularly known as SUV. It must have engine capacity exceeding 1500, length must exceed 4000 meters, and must have a ground clearance of 170 mm and above. All these 4 are required to be satisfied. Only then it will be under the category of SUV. Perfect. So, and then there are Supreme Court judgments, various judgments, in fact, which says that reliance can be placed on the certificate issued by the institutions such as ARAI and Vehicle Research Development Establishment, which are authorized. Now, see, this is the triple, where it has mentioned that the ground clearance in laden state should be 170 mm or above. So it has to be in the laden state and not in the unladen state. We have already have a favorable advance ruling by Tata Motors. So this issue also has been taken care. Now, till now, we have talked about various aspects on the GST rate and compensation cess on the vehicles. Now, let us look at the parts and the components and the accessories part of it. Now, when it comes to parts, components, accessories, again, there is a differential tax rate. There are some parts which are related to engine and engine components related parts, be it directly the engine or the parts and the child parts of the engine. They are categorized under 28% category. If you see gearbox, pistons, and all those engine components are under 28%. Whereas some other parts of the vehicles are under 18% category. Then there are some other parts of the vehicle which are not at all under chapter 87. They are in a totally different chapter altogether. So in total, 3 different aspects. One is classification under chapter 87 and tax rate 28%. Classification under chapter 87 and the tax rate less than 28%. And classification under any other heading not under 87. The question that comes is, Sir, how can there be a classification under any other heading? Because ultimately all parts and accessories of motor vehicle is covered under 8708. आप हेडिंग देखिए, हेडिंग क्या बोलता है? हेडिंग बोलता है पार्ट्स एंड एक्सेसरीज ऑफ मोटर व्हीकल. तो एक बार अगर कोई अगर मटेरियल, इफ इट इज पार्ट्स एंड एक्सेसरी ऑफ मोटर व्हीकल, तो हाउ कैन यू क्लासिफाई दैट अंडर एनी अदर हेडिंग other than chapter 87? This is one of the important issues that is currently going on in the industry, and currently industry is facing a big time problem on this one particular issue. And let me tell you, Pune and NCR, more specifically, particular pocket of region in the NCR is facing a bigger problem in this entire segment. Pune mein ye issue start hua with the fastener manufacturers. Fasteners are basically these nuts and bolts that are, designed for the vehicles. So they have targeted fastener manufacturing industry, and the problem is that isme demands are very huge. We are talking about 10%. So if a company is having a turnover of 100 crores, and let us say if they have misclassified, instead of 28%, they have charged 18% GST. Department is demanding 10% of 100 crores, which is 10 crores GST demand. That is for one financial year. And department is demanding this for the past 5 years, and 50 crore. तो अगर एक छोटी कंपनी जिसका टर्नओवर 100 करोड़ है, 100 करोड़ वाली कंपनी को 50 करोड़ की डिमांड आ रही है on the GST front, which is 50% of their turnover. This is becoming a very, very big problem for the industry. In fact, it is such a big problem that business cannot take this. They have to simply shut down the business if they have to pay that particular amount as tax. The problem gets aggravated because of the fact that the OEMs have still not, come with a precise clarity. OEMs are also playing safe. OEMs ये बोलते हैं आप 18% लगाकर बिल भेजिए, we will accept. आप 28 लगाकर भेजिए, we will accept. We don't have any problem. We will pay you whatever you will charge. But the problem is OEMs are not ready to pay for the past. Past का मत पूछिए, जो करना है आगे से कीजिए. Now there are components like fasteners, polymer products, glass products, and seating products, which are undergoing this particular issue. So the entire issue started from a Supreme Court judgment of GS Auto International. If you can see this judgment on the slide. So GS Auto का Supreme Court का judgment है, 2003 का judgment है. Let me tell you, this is not a current or a recent judgment. This is a 2003 judgment where Supreme Court says that the classification of all the parts and components has to be under Chapter 87. And that particular judgment was in some other business context, in the context of railway signaling equipment, in the judgment of Westinghouse Saxby Farmer Limited, which was by a larger bench, I think 2-member bench. Ye judgment mein again it was held that it would be classified as a part of the motor vehicle or a part of a railway, that is Chapter 86 in this case, and not under Chapter 85. So these two judgments have created a problem. Now, अगर हम classification notes देखें, when we look at deriving a classification for the automobile industry, we need to look at the section notes and the chapter notes. Now, when it comes to section note, if you see note 2 to section 17, which is visible on the slide, यहाँ पर क्या बोलता है? The expression parts and accessories do not apply. Please, 1 minute. The expression parts and accessories do not apply to the following articles: joints, washers, other articles of vulcanized rubber other than hard rubber, parts of general use, as defined in note 2 to section 15. And if a particular part is a part of a general use of a base metal or plastic, then it would not be classified here. Similarly, machines of 84, electrical item of chapter 85, lamps, lighting, fitting of chapter 94 will not get classified. Like that, there is a various list, about 8 to 10 items are there in the list that they would not classify under this particular heading. ऐसा clearly note 2 में बहुत clearly दिया है कि भाई even if these parts are the parts of motor vehicle, they are excluded. It's a clearly exclusion government ने बनाया. The problem is there is another note which is note 3. अभी note 3 में क्या बोलता है? If you see note 3 on the screen, note 3 बोलता है difference in chapter 86 to 88 to parts or accessories do not apply to parts or accessories which are not suitable for use solely or principally with the motor vehicles. तो यहाँ पर क्या बोलता है कि अगर कोई पार्ट प्रिंसिपली या सोली व्हीकल के लिए नहीं बनाया गया है तो वो यहाँ पर क्लासिफिकेशन नहीं होगा. इट विल गो अंडर द रेस्पेक्टिव क्लासिफिकेशन. उसका उल्टा मीनिंग ये भी होता है कि अगर कोई पार्ट solely or principally vehicle के लिए बनाया गया है, then it would get classified under chapter 86 to 88. Now, what department is saying? Department is saying that the nuts and bolts or the fastener products or the seating products or the lamps or the polymer products are specifically designed for the vehicles. They are solely designed for the vehicles. In fact, उनका जो छोटा-छोटा dimension होता है, length होता है, उनकी जो cutting होती है, everything is very, very highly precisionally designed for a vehicle. तो आप इसको ऐसे कैसे बोल सकते हो कि it is not solely or principally for the vehicle. Now, assessee is saying कि look, you should not read note 3. आप note 3 को मत पढ़ो. Note 2 में ही हम exclude हो गए. तो once we are excluded in note 2, why are you bringing us in note 3? Department is saying that sorry, first you need to read note 3 and then you need to read note 2. Assessee is saying first you need to read note 2 and then you need to read note 3. And Supreme Court in GS Auto Investing of Saxby has mentioned that if something is solely or principally designed for vehicle, as per note 3, then it would become a part of a motor vehicle and note 2 will not have any relevance. Now, this judgment of Supreme Court has created a chaos. I don't know अगर कहीं पर show cause notice issue हुई है नहीं हुई, but I can tell you that in some of our clients' case, the demands, at least the notice has not come, but the intimation has come, which is running into 60, 70, 80, 100 crores. Extremely big amount, and I am talking about only tax portion. Interest और penalty को तो मैंने consider भी नहीं किया. तो ये बहुत बड़ा industry में issue चल रहा है. In fact, we have represented to CBIC chairman twice on this particular matter. We went to Ministry of Finance for this particular matter. Problem क्या हो रहा है? There are few big players in the industry. कुछ बड़े players ने क्या किया है? They have changed the rate of tax to 28%. अभी आपका एक क्वेश्चन आएगा कि सर बड़े players ने ऐसा क्यों किया है? Why they changed to 28%? Reason being, Supreme Court का judgment आ गया है, and most importantly, in their case, the retail segment भी होता है. काफी बार ये businesses में क्या होता है? After market is a very big segment. When they don't supply to the OEM, they supply directly through distributors to the aftermarket dealers and distributors. तो उस केस में आप कहाँ से रिकवर करोगे अगर कल के दिन नोटिस आ गई तो businesses have taken a conservative stand. प्रॉब्लम एक और ये आ रहा है कि अगर आज हम 28% लगा दे तो it means we are accepting the rate of department, and for the past also department would demand that particular rate. Now considering this entire thing, then there are some judgments. अब देखो uni products देखो, Intel design देखो, ये judgments बोलते हैं sorry, note 2 is important and you need to classify as per the respective. And I'll not go into the facts of these judgments, but in my view, in our view, with all due respect to the Honorable Supreme Court, I believe that the judgment of Supreme Court cannot be taken as a thumb rule and cannot be applied on a blanket basis to all the parts and components of the vehicles. At the most, that judgment would apply to that specific part for which that judgment was issued. The reason why I say this is because if this judgment is accepted as it is, then the entire chapter note 2 becomes redundant and otiose, which means that agar all parts and components of the vehicle are to be included in vehicle, then what is the relevance of chapter note 2? And there is a principle that law has to be read in a manner to give meaning to each and every word, each and every letter in the law. If you are unable to give meaning or interpretation to a letter or word in the law, then that interpretation is not the right interpretation. Most importantly, agar hum padhe, to note 3 is not given in a positive language. Note 3 is given in a negative language. It says, if it is not principally designed, it will not come. But what department is doing is reading that statement in a positive language, that if it is done, it will go. See, it is very important when the language is given in a particular way, it has to be read in that way. You cannot reverse and read it. Meaning to wohi aayega na, sorry. So that negative language is being converted and being read by the department. Third, very, very important aspect, both the judgments did not consider the explanatory notes to HSN classification. Now, let me tell you, explanatory notes to HSN classification are valid. They are having a value. There are Supreme Court judgments in this particular matter. In fact, in the Westinghouse Sachs by judgment, they just give a passing reference, but they do not consider these explanatory notes or section notes or the chapter notes. So, which means that the full material was not produced before the court as far as this thing is concerned. Department ने खुद ने 2 बार circular निकाला है that this Supreme Court judgment cannot be accepted. In fact, department is telling in favor of assessee. We met CBIC chairman, and CBIC chairman told us that the view of the assessee is correct and the view of Supreme Court is not correct. This is what CBIC chairman has told. I think till now the show cause notice is not issued because CBIC is also internally discussing this matter on how to resolve it. When we ask CBIC, कि clarification क्यों नहीं निकाल देते? Clarification निकाल दो, matter will end. The problem with CBIC is facing is how they issue a clarification. हम कैसे बताएं कि ये product इधर जाएगा? There are thousands of parts and child parts in a motor vehicle. So how do we issue a clarification for all these 1,000 items? And we cannot generalize. Department officer was giving one example जहां पर वो बता रहे थे कि हमने बोला सर fasteners नट और बोल्ट में तो आप सिर्फ fasteners के clarification निकाल दो. The officer told us very beautiful thing. उसने बोला I went to one industry where that particular part of a vehicle was having 2 features. One is a fastening, which is to nut and bolt, and behind the nut there was one component attached. So it was not just fastener, it was fastener with one component of the vehicle. तो इसको आप क्या बोलोगे? Fastener बोलोगे या कोई और अलग component बोलोगे? The moment we will say all fasteners are under chapter 72, ये जो items है ये भी वहां चले जाएंगे. So we cannot come to any clarification. So department is not coming out with a clarification on this particular subject. तो ये हो गई बात parts and components की. And let me tell you, काफी सारे parts में issue है, right from your car mat, car seating, car cover, lamps, glasses, your nuts, bolts, gearbox, then your seating, I've already covered, safety belt. So all these products are under a classification issue. Helmet, even helmet, there is a classification issue that is going. Now there is one more issue, is on the parts of parts, child parts. See, in vehicle there is something called part, and then there is something called child parts. Child parts are the parts of parts. So the question that comes is, if something is a part of a part, whether it should be classified as a part or it should be classified as its own independent classification. So, for example, एक issue Hero electric vehicle में issue was like this, that the electric motor was attached to the vehicle, to the rear wheel. जो गाड़ी का जो पीछे का टायर होता है, अगर आप इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल देखो तो उसमें जो इलेक्ट्रिक मोटर है वो इलेक्ट्रिक मोटर वो गाड़ी के पीछे के टायर को अटैच हो जाता है, ठीक है ना, and then the motor moves and the tire also moves. So the question was that electric motor which is being sold, which is a DC motor, that motor, will it be classified as a part of the wheel, or it would be classified as a motor, was one of the issue. So the judgment was that it would be classified as a motor and not a part of a wheel, because that particular motor it simply does the function of motor. There is nothing else that it does. आप वो मोटर को जाकर व्हील को लगाओ तो व्हील को घुमा देगा, आप वो मोटर को जाकर पंप को लगाओ वो पानी को it will ऊपर लेके जाएगा. So its functionality is that of an electric motor. So it would classify as a motor and not as a part of a wheel, was a judgment which was given. Like that, there are various other judgments. I will not go into the details of it. Gearbox एक बहुत बड़ा issue industry में, because gearbox पे problem आता है कि whether it is a part of an engine or not is a very big issue. CNG conversion kit in another very big problem. Seating में बहुत बड़ा issue है, because if you see the classification of seats is different. Seat का classification 94 में जाता है. Question is the parts of seats, whether it will go under 94 or it will go under 87, because although seat is a part of vehicle, still seat की classification 94 में जाती है. एक और क्वेश्चन ये आया कि सीट बेल्ट को आप क्या बोलोगे? सीट बेल्ट, whether it is a part of seat or whether seat belt is a part of vehicle, the safety seat belt. That was another very big industry issue. So like that, parts, components, child parts की classification अपने आप में बहुत बड़ी industry problem आ रही है. And the reason of this problem is because there are multiple rates. The rate of tax of 18% भी है, 12% भी है, 5% भी है, और फिर आपका this is on the parts, components, manufacturers. Next, very important issue is in the context of job workers. अभी ये इंडस्ट्री में जॉब वर्किंग इज वेरी कॉमन. nobody takes the complete responsibility. काफी लोग प्रेसिंग के लिए और stamping, pressing, various other job workers you will find in and around Pune. So department has made an amendment in the category of job work. Job work category में amendment ऐसा किया है कि if it is a job work to a registered person, then the rate of tax is 12% and not 18% or 28%, whatever. So the question that comes is, how do you determine whether a particular activity is a job work? इसमें पहले एक confusion ये आया था that job work must amount to manufacture and all those things, but later department clarified ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि वो job work should amount to manufacture to go for a 12% category. Even if the job work is a simple job work, आप समझ लीजिए simple आप coating करते हो या फिर simple electroplating करते हो, तो भी आप 12% की कैटेगरी में जा सकते हो. Let me tell you, there are many people in and around Pune who are charging 18% and 28%. They are not aware that the beneficial rate of 12% is available. However, काफी लोग ये भी बोलते हैं कि why to take risk? जब सामने कस्टमर 18% देने के लिए रेडी है तो हम क्यों 12% लगाएं? बट मैं बता रहा हूँ प्रॉब्लम कहाँ पर आएगी. प्रॉब्लम will come. Department will say you cannot levy a rate of tax beyond the rate of tax that is given in the law. If you are levying a rate of tax beyond what is given in the law, जो balance extra आप जो भर रहे हो, you pay it through electronic cash ledger. Do not utilize your electronic credit ledger. By utilizing electronic credit ledger, you are converting the credit into cash. Or to that extent, department can deny the benefit. So very important that we suggest client to go for the rate of tax that is given for the job work. अभी job work में issue ये आता है कि whether job work per se GST में क्या है, whether the job work, I mean whether something is a job work or whether it is a supply of goods is a very important question. Let's say मुझे किसी ने मटेरियल दिया और मुझे बोला इस पे आप कुछ एक्टिविटी करो, आप रिटर्न मटेरियल दो, तो वो एक्टिविटी कितनी होनी चाहिए? Can I say that I will do the big activity and still take the benefit of job work? For example, can somebody say that I will give you a button and you manufacture the shirt around the button and give the shirt back and it is a job work? Or I will give you the lace of a shoe and you manufacture a shoe as a job work and give the shoe back. Will it amount to job work? Answer is no. प्रेस्टीज इंजीनियरिंग इंडिया लिमिटेड सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट है जहां पर ये बोला जाता है कि भाई job worker is someone who adds minor material or adds some minor activities done to a material. But if something substantial is done which completely changes the product, or substantial activity has been done, that it is not a job work, it is a manufacture of a different goods altogether and the benefit will not apply. तो जब हम क्लाइंट का कोई एक्टिविटी एज अ जॉब वर्क क्लाइंट अगर ट्रीट कर रहा है, it's very important for us to understand what is that activity which is happening, whether at all it is job work, whether it is simply in the nature of powder coating, galvanizing, electroplating, or it is something substantial activity that is being done which will get classified as a supply of goods and not as a job work service. So ये बहुत important aspect है. To give you one example for this particular thing is a bodybuilding. अभी बॉडी बिल्डिंग एक बहुत बड़ा इंडस्ट्री में इशू है. द इशू इन बॉडी बिल्डिंग इज लाइक दिस कि क्या होता है, काफी बार द कस्टमर वांट्स टू बिल्ड द बॉडी ऑफ द व्हीकल एज पर देयर नीड्स, देयर डिजाइन, देयर रिक्वायरमेंट. फॉर एग्जांपल, देयर इज लेट अस से VRL लॉजिस्टिक्स. VRL लॉजिस्टिक्स जो है पैसेंजर व्हीकल बनाता है और उसको जो वोल्वो की गाड़ी है वो एक तरीके से बनाना है उसको. he wants seating in a particular format, he wants color of the vehicle in a particular format, he wants the matting of the vehicle in a particular format. तो उस केस में क्या होता है कि VRL क्या करता है, he doesn't purchase the buses from the Tata or Mahindra, he will simply purchase the chassis. वो सिंपली चासी खरीदेगा टाटा से या महिंद्रा से और वो चासी खरीद के बॉडी बिल्डर को ले जाकर चासी देगा और बोलेगा इस पे तू बॉडी बना पूरी मेरे रिक्वायरमेंट के हिसाब से. तो ये बॉडी बिल्डिंग इंडस्ट्री बहुत ही बड़ी इंडस्ट्री है, बहुत ही कॉमन इंडस्ट्री है. इनफैक्ट टाटा मोटर्स, फोक्सवैगन ये खुद भी बॉडी बिल्डिंग की एक्टिविटी करते हैं कस्टमर से चासी लेकर. इतनी बड़ी इंडस्ट्री है. और काफी बार डीलर्स जो गाड़ी बेचते हैं उनका बॉडी बिल्डर के साथ टाई अप होता है. जब भी वो चासी बेचते हैं तो वो बॉडी बिल्डिंग के साथ बना करके बॉडी देते हैं. तो अब क्वेश्चन क्या आता है कि व्हेन द कस्टमर इज गिविंग द चासी एंड इनफैक्ट दिस इशू वाज देयर इन एक्साइज. अभी देयर इज वन मोर क्लासिफिकेशन व्हिच इज अ क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ बॉडी ऑफ द व्हीकल. चासी का अलग क्लासिफिकेशन है और बॉडी ऑफ द व्हीकल का अलग क्लासिफिकेशन. सो व्हेन द बॉडी बिल्डर इज बिल्डिंग द बॉडी एंड चासी, कस्टमर से चासी आई आपके पास, आपने उसके ऊपर बॉडी लगाई, बॉडी लगाकर आपने कस्टमर को पूरा मटेरियल दे दिया रिटर्न. तो क्वेश्चन वाज वेदर इट इज अ सेल ऑफ अ व्हीकल और सेल ऑफ अ बॉडी ऑफ द व्हीकल, बिकॉज बॉडी ऑफ द व्हीकल का HSN कोड अलग है. तो इनिशियली सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट आया कि इट इज अ सेल ऑफ अ बॉडी ऑफ द व्हीकल, बट इट वाज लीडिंग टू लॉट ऑफ इश्यूज, डिस्प्यूट्स, लिटिगेशन. बाद में डिपार्टमेंट ने चैप्टर नोट में अमेंड किया और बताया नो इट इज अ मैन्युफैक्चर ऑफ अ मोटर व्हीकल. अभी जीएसटी में दिस इज अ वेरी 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 बिग प्रॉब्लम. अब प्रॉब्लम ऐसे है कि if you treat it as a body of the vehicle, the rate of tax is different. If you treat it as a sale of vehicle, the rate of tax is different. If you treat it as a job work service, then the rate of tax is different. डिपार्टमेंट ने एक बहुत ही ब्यूटीफुल सर्कुलर निकाला, सर्कुलर नंबर 34, जहां पर उन्होंने बोला कि भाई यू नीड टू डिसाइड बेस्ड ऑन फैक्ट्स एंड सर्कमस्टेंसेस ऑफ ईच केस. बेसिकली दिस सर्कुलर क्लैरिफाइज नथिंग. Then they came up with another circular number 52. तो अब होता क्या है कि चासी कस्टमर से चासी मेरे पास में आई है और मैंने बॉडी बिल्डर ने उस पर बॉडी पूरी बनाकर कस्टमर को रिटर्न दे दी, तो वेदर इट इज अ जॉब वर्क सर्विस and the rate of tax of 18% should be applied, or whether it is a sale of a, I would say body of the vehicle, or the body of the vehicle or the complete vehicle per se, and the rate of 28% should apply, or whether it is a job work in the first place. So the circular clarifies like this. Bus body builder, see, body building on chassis owned by customer. When the chassis is owned by customer, तभी ये issues आते हैं. If a chassis is owned by the body builder, तो there is no much issue. But when the chassis is owned by the customer and he gives the body, that is where the issue comes. So serial number B क्या बोलता है? Bus body builder builds a body on chassis provided by the principal for body building and charges fabrication charges, including certain material that was consumed during the process of job work. यहाँ पर क्या बोलता है कि अगर कस्टमर ने बॉडी दी और मैंने उस पर काम किया, फैब्रिकेशन किया, और उस पर मैंने थोड़ा सा मटेरियल डाला और थोड़ा सा कंज्यूमेबल्स डाला, तो बॉडी बिल्डिंग जॉब वर्क सर्विस में जाएंगे और 18% जीएसटी लगेगा, नॉट 28%. अब ये सर्कुलर इज बिकम अ प्रॉब्लम फॉर द इंडस्ट्री. आप बोलोगे सर डिपार्टमेंट का तो फेवरेबल सर्कुलर है, वो तो बोल रहे हैं 18% लगेगा, देन व्हाई इट इज अ प्रॉब्लम फॉर द इंडस्ट्री? द प्रॉब्लम इज फॉर द टाटा मोटर्स एंड महिंद्रा एंड महिंद्रा. आज की डेट में अगर महिंद्रा एंड महिंद्रा या टाटा मोटर्स या आइशर मोटर्स अगर पूरी गाड़ी देते हैं तो 28% जीएसटी लगता है. ऑन द अदर हैंड बॉडी बिल्डर यही टाटा मोटर से चासी खरीदेगा और खुद की बॉडी उस पर ऐड करके कस्टमर को देगा, उस पर 18% जीएसटी लगेगा, which means all the OEMs are becoming 10% incompetitive to the bodybuilders. And let me tell you, 10% is a very big amount in automobile industry. So Tata Motors has actually gone for advanced ruling, and Tata Motors wanted this classification in 28% and not in 18%, because 28% अगर classification आएगा तो पूरे बॉडी बिल्डर्स को भी फिर 28% लगाना पड़ेगा. तो अभी लेट्स से इफ आई एम अ कस्टमर, तो अगर मुझे कोई गाड़ी लेनी है, तो इंस्टेड ऑफ टेकिंग द फुल व्हीकल फ्रॉम टाटा मोटर्स एंड पेइंग 28% जीएसटी, आई वुड टेक ओनली चासी. I would go to bodybuilder and levy a GST of only what do you say? I would go to bodybuilder, ask him to build a body on the vehicle, and for that entire body part which he is doing, he is going to charge me only 18% GST, which is a straight saving of 10%, because on this vehicle the input tax credit is not allowed. So this is a very important aspect or issue that is there in the entire इंडस्ट्री. सो अभी अगर ये हम पूरा ये चीज को समझें, नाउ इन दिस आल्सो देयर आर वेरियस डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट्स. So the issue, when Tata Marco Polo or Tata Motors went for today there are I think around 8 to 10 advance rulings in favor of the fact that it is 18% and not 28%, which means the entire advance ruling is in the favor of the bodybuilders. Unfortunately, the advance ruling is not considering the fact that there is a difference between minor consumables and proper bodybuilding. अगर थोड़ा टाइम के लिए I just go back to that circular, तो आप ये सर्कुलर में पॉइंट नंबर बी आप देखिए यहाँ क्या लिखा है. बॉडी बिल्डर बिल्ड्स बॉडी ऑन चासी प्रोवाइडेड बाय प्रिंसिपल बॉडी बिल्डिंग एंड चार्जेस फैब्रिकेशन चार्जेस including certain material that was consumed during the process. यानी अगर बॉडी बिल्डर मेजॉरिटी काम कुछ नहीं कर रहा है, बॉडी है उसको सिर्फ फैब्रिकेट कर रहा है और थोड़ा सा कंज्यूमेबल्स ऐड कर रहा है, in that case it is a job work and it will go under 18%. I don't have any problem. But पूरी बॉडी जब बॉडी बिल्डर बना रहा है, how can you say it is certain consumables? I don't think. But unfortunately, advanced rulings are not considering this factor, and they are giving a favorable ruling as a 18%, which is unfavorable to the OEMs. Tata Motors came with one more dimension. Tata Motors told, there is one more industry issue जहां पर क्या होता है कि बॉडी पूरी रेडी होती है, the entire body is ready, just when the chassis comes, वो बॉडी को चासी पे लगाया और गाड़ी निकाल गया. तो उस केस में क्या बोलोगे? बिकॉज मेरी तो पूरी बॉडी रेडी है, आई एम सिंपली सेलिंग द बॉडी. Only thing is, instead of selling the body to the customer, I am fixing it on the chassis and selling to the customer. In that case also, will you call it as a jobber? तो उसमें बोला नहीं, इस केस में where the chassis is already ready, where the standard chassis is ready, there it will be classified as supply of goods and not a supply of service. So it is a very big confusion in the entire industry. Now I'll tell you, we commercial की एक और एडवांस रूलिंग है जहां पर अलग-अलग सिनेरियोस होते हैं बॉडी बिल्डिंग के. कुछ केस में कस्टमर चासी लेता है और बाहर बॉडी बिल्डर से बॉडी बनवाता है. कुछ केस में कस्टमर चासी लेता है और चासी डीलर के पास लेकर जाता है और डीलर इंडिपेंडेंट बॉडी बिल्डर से बॉडी बनवाता है. कुछ केस में कस्टमर चासी लेता है और डीलर के पास जाता है और डीलर मैन्युफैक्चरर के पास जाकर, यानी टाटा के पास जाकर वो बॉडी पूरी बनवाता है. कुछ केस में कस्टमर चासी लेता है और वोल्वो की खुद के दो अलग यूनिट है. वन इज व्हीकल सेल यूनिट, अदर इज अ बॉडी बिल्डिंग यूनिट. यानी व्हीकल सेल यूनिट से आपने चासी खरीदा, बॉडी बिल्डिंग यूनिट को वो चासी दिया और वहां से पूरी बॉडी बनकर रिटर्न आई है. ये ऐसे क्यों किया? बिकॉज टू टेक द बेनिफिट ऑफ टैक्सेशन. Are you understanding it? Instead of selling the full vehicle, let me sell the chassis to customer. That customer will again give the chassis to my own different division. There I will build the body on that chassis and then sell it to customer so that I can take the benefit of 18%. And then the last scenario, जहाँ standard body ready होती है, which is mounted on the chassis. तो ये पूरे permutation combinations है industry में. Let me tell you, various people in the industry are following various practices. बहुत बड़ा litigation area, आगे जाकर बहुत problems आने वाली है on this entire issue of body building. Now let me come to the next very important issue in the context of valuation. तो valuation में सबसे बड़ा issue ये आया था when GST law came was ये जो dies, tools, molds, fixtures होते हैं, in automobile industry it is very common that these dies, tools, molds, इन्हें vehicle की जो एक particular die होती है, फिर mold होता है, tool होता है, जिसका जो design, जो measurement के हिसाब से components बनने हैं. तो OEM क्या होता है? जैसे for example Tata Motors ये die जो है component manufacturer को देता है और component manufacturer वो die use करके वो die के basis पर वो आगे component बनाते हैं. तो under central excise this was settled कि ये जो डाई की जो कॉस्ट है, जो फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट कंपोनेंट मैन्युफैक्चरर को मिल रही है फ्रॉम द ओईएम, वो डाई की या मोल्ड की कॉस्ट को आपको कंपोनेंट की कॉस्ट में ऐड करना चाहिए व्हाइल कैलकुलेटिंग द एक्साइज ड्यूटी. दिस वाज सेटल्ड प्रिंसिपल इन द सेंट्रल एक्साइज लॉ और उसका रीजन ये था बिकॉज सेंट्रल एक्साइज वाज द लेवी ऑन मैन्युफैक्चर एंड नॉट द लेवी ऑन सेल. तो अगर आप वो स्टेज पर अगर वो वैल्यू ऐड नहीं करोगे तो आगे के कोई स्टेज पर वो वैल्यू ऐड नहीं होगी. तो द क्वेश्चन केम कि whether in GST also whether we need to add the value of the tool die और उसका अमोर्टाइजेशन करना पड़ेगा क्या. लियर ऑटोमोटिव का फेवरेबल एडवांस रूलिंग आया है एंड डिपार्टमेंट ने सर्कुलर भी निकाला है कि इन दिस केस दिस पर्टिकुलर वैल्यू इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड टू बी एडेड, which is a very, I would say, welcome clarification issued by the department in the context of valuation of design, molds, dies and fixtures. However, while clarifying this, department ने एक जो problem create कर दिया, फिर एक जो confusion जो department ने create कर दिया, वो अगर आप last पैरा देखोगे तो आपको पता चलेगा. वहां पर उन्होंने क्या लिखा? However, if the contract between OEM and component manufacturer was for supply of components made by using the molds, dies belonging to the component manufacturer, but the same have been supplied by the OEM to the component manufacturer on FOC basis, the amortized cost of such dies shall be added to the value of the amortized cost of such dies shall be added to the value of the components. In such cases, the OEM will be required to reverse the credit availed on such molds dies, as the same will not be considered to be provided by OEM to the component in the course or furtherance of the former's business. यानी अगर समझ लीजिए OEM कोई डाई देता है जो एक्चुअली OEM का ऑब्लिगेशन नहीं है, फिर भी वो देता है, and in which case the component manufacturer has to add that value while discharging the duty, और जो OEM ने जो डाई खरीदा उसका ITC OEM को नहीं मिलेगा. This is very very strange. अभी this entire thing we need to understand किसका obligation है, who is having the obligation to take the cost of the die mold tool. If OEM is having the obligation to take the cost, then there is no requirement to add the value. But let us say if the component manufacturer was having the obligation to make the die, but the OEM is given on FOC basis, in that case the component manufacturer has to do the amortization. उस केस में डिपार्टमेंट बोल रहा है ITC नहीं मिलेगा, which is in my view a wrong law or incorrect interpretation by the department in the clarification. तो ये एक anomaly है. बाकी टूल डाई में एक बहुत बड़ा इशू क्या है entire industry, in the case of tools and dies there is no movement. Generally movement नहीं होता है because वो टूल डाई फैक्ट्री के बाहर निकलता नहीं है. Let's say मैंने अगर टूल बनाया तो I use that tool to manufacture the components. I will not remove and sell the tool to Tata Motors. Tata Motors बोलेगा मैं क्या करूं टूल का, आप अपने फैक्ट्री में वो टूल रखो और कंपोनेंट बनाओ और मुझे कंपोनेंट दो. I don't need. प्रैक्टिकली वो टूल की ओनरशिप टाटा मोटर्स को जाती है because Tata Motors would like to have the title on the tool and the asset is lying in the books of Tata Motors, but physically that asset is in the factory of the component manufacturer or even the job worker. तो अब तो क्वेश्चन ये आता है कि इस केस में whether issue becomes more complicated when the OEM is outside India. काफी बार ये टूल बनता है बाहर की OEM के लिए, for example BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen who are outside India, और physically टूल travel नहीं होता है. So the question that comes is whether it is an export or it is a domestic transaction. तो दोनों export के केस में और interstate supply के केस में it is a very big issue. In our view, in the case of interstate supply transaction, it is nothing but a transaction in the nature of bill to ship to, and the benefit of interstate supply and the ITC should be allowed. And there should not be any restriction of the input tax credit on the OEMs. काफी बार क्या हो रहा है, people are actually moving the material, people are splitting the transaction into design charges and development charges so that the benefit is taken. But export के transaction में it is a very 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 big issue because बाहर जो जर्मनी में जो बैठा है या US में जो बैठा है वो बोलेगा sorry, I am not going to take the cost of your GST. That is something you look at it yourself. We will pay only for the fixed value, whatever that is there. Then 18% becomes a cost for the local Indian manufacturer. This is something government has to relook on the structuring, and that is where many businesses are restructuring their agreement and leasing of tools का कोई सोच रहा है, या loading that value in the component is another option, or looking at the design charges as a component split is another option. So these are some of the issues in the context of tools dies valuation aspect. Then let's look at some other critical issues. I think it is already 6:43. I've got around about 3 to 4 slides more. So just give me, maybe I'll go a little faster from here. Another very, very important issue in the entire industry is in the context of how do you really apply the taxability for supply of FOC material, samples, replacements, warranty replacements, testing. when it is going on free of cost basis, and especially going to related parties or unrelated parties, or move in the domestic area or in the overseas transaction. Let me tell you, ये बहुत ही common होता है industry में, especially see warranty replacement, there cannot be a GST implication per se. But when it comes to samples, in case of samples, in our view, it is nothing but a part of the sale promotion, because the entire samples are given to promote the future sales or to promote the future orders to be coming in from the customers, and there should not be any GST liability on the same. Similarly, in the case of testing material or in the case of trial materials or even in the case of prototypes, there should not be any GST liability, as the same are ultimately for the future supply of goods or services. What is very important is that when these samples are given outside India on FOC basis, whether it can be treated as an export and zero rated supply, and the benefit of zero rated supply, whether it can be taken, in my view, the answer is yes, this benefit can be taken. Very, very, very important aspect is that whether input tax credit is required to be reversed in the case of these samples. In my view, input tax credit is required to be reversed only if it is a traded material where you have purchased X and you are selling X on as it is basis. The moment you are manufacturing it, the moment you are assembling it, the moment you are converting into something else, the reversal does not apply, because there is no reversal mechanism given in the law. It talks about the blocked credit, and the blocked credit is only on input and not on semi-finished goods or finished goods, which is very, very important dimension. But today, as I see, majority of the taxpayers are taking a very, very big cost on account of samples, testings, and all these things. In fact, testing, trial, prototype में तो सवाल ही नहीं उठता है ITC reverse करने. नेक्स्ट एक बहुत बड़ा जो इंडस्ट्री में इशू है इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ लिक्विडेटेड डैमेजेस. काफी बार ऐसा होता है कि ओईएम्स अगर जरा से अगर आपके प्रोडक्ट में कोई डिफेक्ट हो गया जो आपने टाटा मोटर्स को सप्लाई किया, तो ओईएम्स सीधा सीधा एक अमाउंट डाल देता है एज ए लिक्विडेटेड डैमेजेस. तो व्हेन दिस अमाउंट इज चार्ज एज ए लिक्विडेटेड डैमेजेस, ओईएम्स विल ideally the component manufacturer should raise a credit note at the rate of 28%. But many times what is seen is that instead of that, the OEMs raise a service invoice as a liquidated damages. This will create a very, very, very big issue for the component manufacturers, because department बोलेगा कि आप सिर्फ 18% ITC reverse कर रहे हो, rather you should be paying 28%, because majority of the parts components are in the 28% category. वो जो 10% का जो gap है, that will become a very big issue for the suppliers. डिपार्टमेंट ने बहुत रिसेंटली सर्कुलर भी निकाला कि लिक्विडेटेड डैमेजेस पर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. I hope that after that circular, OEMs must have stopped charging GST on the liquidated damages at the rate of 18%. नेक्स्ट एक बहुत बड़ा इशू ये है ये इंडस्ट्री में कि प्राइस डिफरेंस डेबिट नोट्स एंड क्रेडिट नोट्स इज वेरी, वेरी कॉमन, बिकॉज ये जो इंडस्ट्री है इसमें काफी सारा कमोडिटी यूज होता है, आयरन, स्टील एंड वेरियस अदर केमिकल्स जो कमोडिटीज है. तो जब कमोडिटीज की मार्केट में वैल्यू फ्लक्चुएट होती है, स्टील की मार्केट में वैल्यू फ्लक्चुएट होती है, तो व्हेन द कमोडिटीज की वैल्यू फ्लक्चुएट होती है, तो आज मेरी टाटा मोटर्स के साथ अज्यूम करो 100 rupees per component, the deal is fixed with Tata Motors, but later let us say the deal is the price in the cement industry, the commodity price in the industry of steel is increased, in which case how do you that the Tata Motors has to pay the extra pricing, because that is part of the agreement. तो जो 5 रुपया ऊपर से मिलता है, लेट्स से 105 रुपए के हिसाब से, दैट कम्स ऑन अ रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव बेसिस. पिछले 2 साल के हिसाब से कैलकुलेट करके ये 5 रुपया मिलता है आफ्टर हेवी नेगोशिएशन विद द ओईएम्स. तो क्वेश्चन दैट कम्स इज, जो एक्स्ट्रा 5 रुपया मिल रहा है, क्या इस पे 2 साल का इंटरेस्ट भरना पड़ेगा? बिकॉज द मेन मटेरियल वाज ऑलरेडी मूव्ड 2 years बैक. टुडे you are only getting the price difference. तो प्राइस डिफरेंस पर इंटरेस्ट भरना पड़ेगा क्या 2 साल का? सुप्रीम कोर्ट इन द केस ऑफ स्टील अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया लिमिटेड इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ सेंट्रल एक्साइज हैज गिवन अ जजमेंट दैट इंटरेस्ट इज एप्लीकेबल। अभी ये बहुत बड़ा इशू है इंडस्ट्री में। आज की डेट में जितनी भी ऑटोमोबाइल पार्ट्स कंपोनेंट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनीज है वो ये इंटरेस्ट अमाउंट को प्रोविजन क्रिएट कर रही है बुक्स पे, और ये बहुत बड़ा आई वुड से पेंडोरा बॉक्स है। ये द मोमेंट इट इज गोइंग टू बस्ट इट इज गोइंग टू क्रिएट अ वेरी बिग प्रॉब्लम फॉर द सेक्टर, बिकॉज़ इंटरेस्ट अमाउंट बहुत बड़ा रहेगा। और प्राइस डिफरेंस डेबिट नोट्स इज अ वेरी कॉमन फिनोमेना इन द एंटायर सेक्टर। So the point is, we need to understand that the central excise law was a law based on removal, where the taxability or the event for collection of tax was based on removal, but GST is based on supply, and there is an explanation categorically given in GST that the time of supply will be at the time of raising the invoice or any other document for as requiring the payment. तो ये एक्सप्लेनेशन एक्साइज में नहीं था। दिस इज द ओनली सेफ्टी दैट द बिजनेसेस आर हैविंग इन जीएसटी। आज की डेट में आई थिंक 90% ऑफ द कंपोनेंट मैन्युफैक्चरर्स आर नॉट पेइंग इंटरेस्ट, बट देयर आर 10% जो बोलते हैं आई डोंट वांट एनी लिटिगेशन एंड दे आर पेइंग इंटरेस्ट। ठीक है। देन एक और बहुत बड़ा इशू है, काफी बार ऑटोमोबाइल इंडस्ट्री में ऐसा होता है कि यू नीड टू बी क्लोजर टू द ओईएम, तो आपको ओईएम के एकदम पास में एक वेयरहाउस रखना होता है। So the question is, I don't take the warehouse myself. मैंने किसी let's say महिंद्रा लॉजिस्टिक्स को मैंने पूरा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट दे दिया, और महिंद्रा लॉजिस्टिक्स का वेयरहाउस एकदम टाटा मोटर्स के गोडाउन फैक्ट्री के पास में है। मैं यहाँ से मटेरियल निकालता हूँ लेट अस से इन हरियाणा, फ्रॉम महाराष्ट्र टू हरियाणा इन द महिंद्रा वेयरहाउस, एंड फ्रॉम देयर इट गोज टू टाटा मोटर्स। द क्वेश्चन दैट कम्स इज whether I need to take registration in Haryana because I don't have my own warehouse, and whether I need to generate EV bill for movement from Mahindra's warehouse to Tata Motors. In my view, you have to take registration and you have to also generate EV bill, जो कि आज की डेट में काफी लोग नहीं कर रहे हैं। So, ठीक है, see, these are the major issues in the entire industry, because I would also like to give some time for the Q&A. Then ये जो slide में है, ये issues are more in the context of automobile dealers and the transactions with the automobile dealers, nothing to do with the manufacturers. So, Rajesh sir, how do we do? Because we have only 10 minutes left out. You want me to cover?
Consultant and non-consultant.
So we can take Q&A. How many slides are remained, sir?
1 minute. 1, 2, 3, 4 slides.
I think you complete, sir, please.
Yes,
With
sir,
the
we
permission
have.
of all audience, I think.
Sorry?
With the permission of all participants, I request.
Yeah, I can check with the participants, because see, it will exceed time. It would exceed roundabout. I would require 10 more minutes. So, if I can get the brief feedback so that I can accordingly take, because it is exceeding the time.
No, sir, please continue. We would like to have the full overview of the topic, sir.
Chalo, theek hai. Great. So thank you all for this response. So now continuing our discussion in the context of automobile, there are some transactions which the vehicle manufacturers would have with the automobile dealers. So let us say the vehicle was now automobile manufacturers have separate GST number in each of the manufacturing state. So let us say the vehicle was manufactured in Uttarakhand, and from there it was moved to a dealer. It is moved to a dealer in, let us say, Maharashtra, and that dealer in Maharashtra has sold to a customer in Maharashtra, and that customer has come up with a warranty replacement. Now that warranty replacement was done locally by the dealer in Maharashtra, and that dealer has taken the money from the western region Tata Motors, because generally each dealer is connected region wise. So once the western region Tata Motors has paid for the dealer, this particular amount, there has to be a cross charge from Uttarakhand Tata Motors to Tata Motors Maharashtra. These are some specific cross charge for warranty charges, for extended warranty, for roadside assistance, and for various other items where one unit of my manufacturing has sold and other unit has done some activity. So this is very important for the OEMs. Next, एक बहुत बड़ा इंडस्ट्री में इशू ऐसा है कि when the vehicle is given to the dealer, the manufacturer will come with the various schemes, discounts, rebates, and various, policies to sell the vehicle. The question that comes is, जब मैन्युफैक्चरर ये डिस्काउंट या इंसेंटिव या फिर ये लॉयल्टी पॉइंट्स जब डीलर को देता है, whether a manufacturer has to issue a credit note or whether a dealer has to raise a invoice of incentive. So to answer this question, manufacturer would have to issue a credit note. Credit note has to be with a GST credit note if a manufacturer is able to identify the value of the discount or whatsoever at the chassis level. Only if you are able to identify at the chassis level, you can give a GST credit note. If a manufacturer is not able to identify these discounts at the chassis level, then manufacturer would issue a financial credit note and not a GST credit note. Problem ये हो जाता है when a manufacturer issues a financial credit note, it leads to ballooning of ITC in the hands of dealers. So that is one of the issues which dealers face. Now, जब dealer in some cases, instead of manufacturer issuing a credit note, dealer has to raise an incentive bill. That is in a case where manufacturer is paying dealer towards some sort of good performance, quality review, achievement of some target or achievement of some, quality inspection or whatever. In that case, it is not related to a particular chassis or a particular vehicle related, altogether a complete performance evaluation related incentive which is given, in which case dealer has to raise an invoice and not the manufacturer. However, आज की date में in the industry, what I see, there is a chaos, complete chaos. I have seen cases where manufacturer is issuing GST credit note and यहाँ से वो invoice raise कर रहा है, यहाँ से ये भी invoice raise कर रहा है, दोनों एक दूसरे को invoice raise कर रहे हैं, because nobody wants to take risk. Manufacturer is raising a GST credit note in some cases they are raising a financial credit note. Neither the dealer is raising a GST invoice and with all the permutation and combination, 18%, 28%, 28% plus cess also. So I cannot generalize this because this in itself is a subject, let me tell you. But then the point which I'm trying to say is, in looking at the facts of each and every scheme, we need to conclude whether manufacturer has to raise credit note or whether dealer has to raise invoice. If yes, at what rate, whether it has to be with GST or without GST. If it is with GST, at what rate? These are the important questions that needs to be answered considering the facts of each and every scheme. If you want to know more about this, we have written in detail in our book that we have written on automobile industry. Now, in some cases, it happens that there is a cost sharing arrangement. Dealer, advertisement करता है या event करता है और उसका proportionate cost is borne by the manufacturer. So, in our view, in that case, dealer cannot take the full ITC. Dealer has to take only proportionate input tax credit. Sometimes manufacturers will issue a lot of free goodies, free promotional items to the dealers. The question that comes is whether manufacturer can take input tax credit on such free items. In my view, certainly yes, manufacturer can take input tax credit on all this free because see, there is nothing free in this world. No sir, it is in the nature of gift. Gift पे तो ITC नहीं मिलता है. Sorry, gift is something that is given free without expecting anything in return. Something that is given graciously. There is no graciousness or this thing happens in the business. It is all with the expectation in return. Manufacturer should be eligible for full input tax. Similarly, एक और issue क्या आता है when the dealer takes the vehicle for demo purpose. तो डेमो के लिए जो vehicle लेता है whether उस पे input tax credit मिलेगा या फिर वो general जो vehicle वाला restriction है that will be applicable. So already there is a AAAR which says that the demo vehicle input tax credit should be eligible. ठीक है. Manufacturing loss, batch failure, payment loss, transit loss. In all these cases, input tax credit is eligible. In fact, even for goods damaged, destroyed, including samples, promotional activities, all these cases, input tax credit is eligible. In corporate social responsibility, CSR का अगर expenditure है, तो उस पे ITC नहीं मिलेगा. What some people are doing, they are claiming ITC and they are claiming even the tax portion from the insurance claim. That is not allowed. अगर आप ITC ले रहे हो, तो आपको insurance claim सिर्फ 100 रुपए का लेना चाहिए, 118 का नहीं लेना चाहिए. On the other hand, if you are not claiming ITC, then you can claim full 118 rupees insurance claim. So that is one very, very important aspect that we need to check during audit of the these dealers के केस में insurance claim बहुत ज़्यादा रहता है. Price difference debit note. Now, price difference debit note पहले हमने supply के angle से देखा था. Now from the ITC angle से the time limit to take credit is not from the date of debit note. Sorry, it is from the date of debit note and not from the date of original invoice. Starting में ये confusion था, but later they amended the law. So the time limit for price difference debit note is to be from the date of debit note and it is not from the date of original invoice. एक और बहुत बड़ा इशू डीलर से केस में ऐसा होता है कि काफी बार vehicle निकल जाती है वहां से, but physically there is a difference between the time when the vehicle reaches and the time when it removes from the depot. So ITC can be availed only once it reaches the place. Tools, dies, fixtures, jigs. जनरली ये सभी चीजें जो होती है ये लॉन्ग टर्म के होते हैं, 2-3 साल का प्रोजेक्ट रहता है. तो जो पेमेंट होती है वो माइलस्टोन के बेसिस पर होती है कि आपने इतना टूल बना दिया तो चलो उतना पेमेंट मिल जाएगा, फिर इतना बन गया तो इतना. तो इस केस में द क्वेश्चन दैट कम्स इज काफी बार पेमेंट गोज फॉर 2 years 3 years. The question that comes is if the payment is made beyond 180 days, whether ITC reversal is required for the tooling transactions. In my view, no, because the reversal is required in case where there is a failure of payment. When there is no obligation of payment, there cannot be a failure of payment. Hence, the reversal should not come in these kind of transactions. I think events हमने cover कर लिया, financial credit notes हमने cover कर लिया, employee recoveries, canteen recoveries, transport recoveries are very, very common in these transactions. अभी तो there is a circular that has already come. So on all these recoveries, there is no question of paying any GST. Input tax credit will be allowed or disallowed depending upon the Factories Act status. हाँ, एक और चीज काफी कॉमन होती है कि sometimes the MNC companies, the MNC automobile companies will be using the brand name, trade name, logo, or some IP of the foreign company for which the foreign company is not charging anything. Let me tell you, even if the foreign company does not charge anything, even if there is no consideration, the liability and the reverse charge still holds good. And these are the issues which department is raising during the audits and assessments. So very, very important how your agreement with your holding company is structured for all these IPs, royalties, and branding and your trademark licenses is extremely important to be looked at. Next, एक बहुत बड़ा issue है is in the context of export with payment of tax. one cannot do export with payment of tax if you are manufacturing in the EOU or you are importing using the advance license. This is a very, very big issue or a restriction raised under Rule 9610. The matter is currently pending before High Court, Gujarat High Court. And then very, very important is in in the automobile industry, mover scheme is one of the aspects that can be looked at, because if somebody is looking at heavy capex, so mover scheme can help in deferring the obligation of customs duty. So which is beneficial not just for automobile industry, for any other capex heavy industry, and automobile is a capex heavy industry. So with this, I conclude my discussion. While I have tried to cover as many scenarios, as many issues in the 2 hours time allotted to me, but let me tell you, there are still many more issues, and within the issues, there are still multiple dynamics, which I have not gone too much detail into. But then, yes, I tried covering as much as possible. So with this, I would like to conclude my session and thank you all for patient listening. Now we can take questions.
Request all the participants to please type their questions in the Q&A tab, so we can consider all those. It is very likely that few might be missed out in the chat box. So please use the Q&A tab as far as possible.
So there's first question from Nitin sir. Nitin sir is asking how benefits of free samples can be termed as zero-rated supplies, as there is no consideration payable for such supply and such declaration also filed at customs laws. So Nitin sir, if you look at the definition of export under GST law, IGST Act, it simply says taking the goods outside India to a place taking the goods out of India to a place outside India. It doesn't talk about consideration. कंसिडरेशन का डायनामिक्स तब आता है जब हमको रिफंड क्लेम करना है. तो इस केस में अगर आप रिफंड क्लेम कर रहे हो तो यस वो नहीं मिलेगा बिकॉज पैसा बाहर से आया. बट as long as whether it will be classified as an export, yes. So that is the important point I mentioned. Next is, sir, can you repeat, elaborate on ITC reversal with respect to FOC? अभी देखिए FOC के केस में क्या होता है, FOC अलग अलग चीजों के लिए होता है. FOC can be for warranty replacement, FOC can be for testing, trial, prototype, samples, promotions, all permutation combinations are there. For warranty replacements, it is already included in the price when the original material was sold, so there is no further, we cannot say it is FOC, it is already, considerations already included. So उसपे GST will not come again. When it comes to samples and all this, first of all, when it comes to this testing and all those things, काफी बार testing, prototyping के लिए material जाता है, and either it comes back or it doesn't come back. Many of the times it doesn't come back. So the question that comes is whether it would require reversal of ITC or whether Schedule 1 entry would hit. So in my view, Schedule 1 entry would not hit because it cannot be called as disposal of asset. It is rather the asset has gone for testing purpose or it has gone for a particular thing. It is not disposal का मतलब होता है to get rid of something. So it is not transferred to someone for a particular use or to dispose. It is issued for testing or prototyping. Hence that Schedule 1 entry 1 would not apply. Secondly, ITC reversal इसलिए नहीं आएगा sir because ITC अगर हम 17.5 देखें तो it talks about blocked credit. It doesn't talk about reversal of credit. Now blocked credit is only for inputs. It is not for semi-finished goods or finished goods. And there is no mechanism of calculation. Let us say आपने FOC में कुछ material खरीदा, उसमें आपने कुछ value addition किया और अभी आगे उसको आप बेच रहे हो. So how are you going to calculate कि उसमें कौन सा material था? Do you apply BOM? लेकिन ये कहाँ पर दिया कि आपको BOM apply करना पड़े? So there is a difference between reversal of ITC and blockage of ITC. So this restriction is in blockage and not under reversal. So reversal will not come and blockage will come only when you are removing inputs as it is. Inputs as it is CSR के basis पर होता है, बाकी manufacturing में नहीं होता है. That is the reason this view is coming out. ठीक है? reversal of ITC in case of financial crime not required. Already I think इस पे MRF टायर्स का
सर MRF का एडवांस रूलिंग appellate एडवांस रूलिंग है मगर
appellate advance ruling.
but I think there is a special circular now.
Circular भी है, yes.
Now it is not required.
Not required.
Yes.
AR judgment on demo vehicle whether ITC available. Already बोला ना मैंने, चोगले इंडस्ट्रीज मैंने कोड भी किया है जजमेंट AR का, ट्रिपल AR का डेमो व्हीकल्स के केस में CHOWGULE. Whether same analogy apply for import of free samples, import of free. Sir, import के केस में क्या होता है नितिन सर, is customs का जो law है, customs का law is not on consideration. Customs law is on the
Movement of goods.
physically that goods coming into the territory of India. तो import के केस में सर उस पर import duty तो लगेगी, लेकिन I'll tell you एक issue ऐसा है कि fundamental issue है कि whether what we are paying, whether it is a custom duty or whether it is an IGST. Largely now this view is settled that this is an IGST that is being paid. So how can there be an IGST when as per section 7 the relevance of consideration is there, consideration चाहिए supply के लिए section 7 में. So in this case when there is no consideration, how can there be a levy of IGST? एक legal question है sir ये. But then अभी तक क्या हो रहा है, customs department is levying, हर एक import पे वो IGST लगा रहे हैं, treating the customs law as a mechanism. But in my view that is not correct. But this is, I would say, very big legal issue, Nitin sir, rather than first we need to determine whether what we are paying is a custom duty or IGST. If it is IGST, then principles of section 7 will apply and this liability should not come. So that's how I would like to answer this question. Is Westinghouse judgment the new rule for HSN classification? If no, why is industry moving towards end use based classification? Westinghouse judgment, I've already mentioned, is only applicable for that specific facts. It cannot be considered as a principle. Please do not consider as a ratio. And industry should not move towards end use based classification. That will create more problems. So this is my view. How to calculate GST on sale of material, motor vehicle considered as business asset on which depreciation is charged. That is what, so if you have considered business or depreciation is charged, so GST on, so if it is second hand motor vehicle, then आपको margin basis पर आपको quarterly basis depreciation लेकर on a margin basis you need to pay GST, and that depreciation has to be calculated as per the income tax that block method. Can ITC become a motor passenger transport sedan considered business assets? No, sorry. अगर आप कोई अलग manufacturing business में हो तो you cannot claim ITC on passenger vehicles because it is categorically blocked in section 17 subsection 5. Do we need to raise EV bill for warranty replacement? Of course, yes, because it is a movement of goods. Sir, on basic exemption, basic question from where to refer the rates, CBIC having any site? Sir, I would say don't look at CBIC site. आप RK Jain का book ला लीजिए, लेके आइए, उसमें लिखा हुआ है rates. Go for books. Don't use Google मत use कीजिए. या फिर कोई सब्सक्रिप्शन ले लीजिए, टैक्स सूत्रा, टैक्स मैनेजमेंट इंडिया, और Excus का सब्सक्रिप्शन ले लीजिए.
Excus is best for notification.
Excus is best actually. If job work is done at factory place on the machines owned by a manufacturer company, but address on bill for job work is different from ITC for is required not. देखिए वो job worker फैक्ट्री के अंदर है, फैक्ट्री के बाहर है, उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. ITC 04 तो बनाना पड़ेगा आपको, और वो मूवमेंट करना पड़ेगा, और ITC 04 फाइल करना पड़ेगा. ठीक है ना? This compliance has to be done. Name of the book to be referred in case of automobile industry. Okay, I can proudly say you can refer my book. So the name of the book is Practical Guide on Automobile Industry. It is available on online. I don't know now whether copies are there or not in the public domain. So, but you can still check. So Yeah, I think I've answered all the questions.
Excellent, sir. Excellent. It was an excellent presentation. I must say, you have covered many aspects which are in dispute or not get followed by the industry. Sir, especially you mentioned about the classification. I like to refer one case in which SSC has used the classification of seat, motor vehicle seats, under seats, not under motor vehicle parts, and department was of the view that it is under 8708. And the supply was totally to big motor vehicle company. Turnover was more than 100 crores. As you rightly said, demand was definitely more than 10 crores. And it was a big problem in front of that small OEM. Liability of more than 10 crores is a big issue.
It's a very big amount, sir. But then seats ke case mein, it is very, very clear that the classification has to be chapter 94. Because chapter 94 seat ke liye special mechanism.
No, I am not going for what is the actual scenario. I just mentioned this type of classification issues even for that nut bolt and all fasteners. They have issued many notices for fasteners under 8704, 8708.
बहुत बड़ा issue, sir. That is a very, very big issue. Actually, till now, the show cause notice has not come. That is the only, because department का भी sir हाथ कांप रहा है. वो 70 crore, 80 crore की show cause notice में sign करना is not a joke for any officer also, sir.
Sir, even amortization, many companies are not following amortization. After that clarification, I think members or the industry is more confused.
So the purpose is, sir, department's purpose is, sir.
Department's purpose is to confuse people.
Yes. But then this is good. What happens? हमको लगता है जीएसटी में टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई, प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई, आरसीएम, ये 5-6 टॉपिक करा, जीएसटी हो गया बार-बार. But then actual GST में issues come when we discuss industry specific. And I'm sure this particular series will give such a big dimension of understanding for the participants.
Sir, even the place of supply, rightly you mentioned, in case of place of supply, non-movement of goods, section 10, for industry it is a problem, sir.
Very big problem, sir. Very, very big problem.
I have to charge CGST and GST because there is no movement of goods. And when I am dealing to the company which is located in Chennai, even ITC will not be applicable. ITC will not be eligible.
Correct.
Am I?
This is unfortunate, but what we can do. ये बहुत बड़ा industry issue. Ideally, government should have clarified. क्या होता है sir? We went to CBIC. हमने chairman से मिला, काफी issues में. What I realize, I'll tell you, Rajesh sir. उनको सब पता है. They know all the issues. हमको लगता है कि गवर्नमेंट इज नॉट अवेयर, उनको जाके हमको बताना पड़ेगा. सर, उनको हमसे पहले पता चल जाती है सभी इश्यूज. बट देन दे डेलिबरेटली डोंट वांट टू क्लैरिफाई, बिकॉज क्या होता है जब कंफ्यूजन होता है, देयर आर ऑलवेज दोस 8 एसएससीज आउट ऑफ 10 हु विल से वी डोंट वांट एनी रिस्क, लेट अस पे. तो उसमें कलेक्शन हो जाता है. सो दिस इज द माइंडसेट, स्ट्रेटजी, व्हाटएवर यू से.
Well, thank you so much, CA Ravi Kumar Somani sir, for the time and the wonderful knowledge sharing session. The chat box is completely flooded with all the compliments for the wonderful session. It was indeed a great, insightful session, which will definitely go in a long way in the upcoming challenges which everyone is facing. You have explained all the nitty-gritties and the intricacies involved specifically in the automobile sector. I'm sure the participants have definitely taken the benefit, but thank you is a very small word from behalf of the entire organizing team to you for all the effort and time in this wonderful knowledge sharing session. Thank you, Rajesh sir, for giving this wonderful idea and arranging this sectoral series. I take this opportunity to thank on behalf of all the participants, and to all the participants, I thank you on behalf of the organizing team for joining in such large numbers and giving this overwhelming response. Trust, such overwhelming response encourages us to organize many more innovative sessions. Thank you so much. Last but not the least, to the entire technical support team for the technical support throughout the session. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thanks to Pune branch. It's
Thank
always
you. Thanks.
our privilege.
Okay. Salute, sir.